Let's get started. All right, everybody. So my name is Marquise. If you've been to my channel before, you've already seen my games. Right now, most of my games are unlisted, just because I'm kind of like rebranding a lot of things and going through some changes right now. This is a game of Symbaroum, and this is the last time you will see my face for the next 2 or 3 hours. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. It is raining. The rain is light, it is a drizzle, it is gentle. See the leaves, see the trees, see the dew being washed away and replaced. See the soft, fertile loam of the forest of the Davokar being turned into mud. The camera is moving through this what should be a forest paradise. And you hear this sound that no human voice, no human throat could possibly recopy, could speak out, could reverbalize. It's a gurgling, a twisting, a slimy boiling. The camera continues to move closer to the sound. It's getting louder and louder. You see a foot enter into the camera, and you see a leg as well. It's lying on the grass. And we follow the torn boots, the dirty, blood-stained pant leg, all the way back to the base of a tree where a figure is sitting, his arms limp at his sides. The camera raises higher and higher and higher up the arm. You see the arms are swollen and fat and pale, literally bursting through the sleeves. We get to the shoulders. We get to the neck, or what should have been a neck. You don't see the stump. You don't see the head. You just see a coagulating mess of black tendrils, of slimy worm-like things outlined in a bloody, jelly, gooish red, just boiling, turning over each other again and again and again where the stump is. And the camera slowly moves until you're staring it dead on, and you see this corpse thing sitting there. And the camera begins to lower. And as it lowers, the black slime is melting down the corpse with it into a pool at the base of this tree. And the pool goes still, and nothing moves, and the sound stops. And the camera begins to rush through the Davokar. You see something rushing alongside it, a shadowy figure, something weird, something wrong. And in fact, that's the only way you could think of it, is wrong, wrong, wrong. And the camera continues to move until it gets to a camp of people, a large camp, a work camp. You see people cutting down trees, people cooking, people washing, people making tent. And it goes into a tent. And then you wake up, Cameron, as you come out of this dream, sweating, breathing heavy. Name your character and describe him for us.
Well, my character is named Sanu, although I doubt very much that he goes by that. He is younger. He appears to be about 20, 25, somewhere in there. He's got, rough hands from labor. Kind of has short hair. I would say it's kind of that long, kind of in the back and short in the front. He's got kind of that sandy blonde color, and he looks like he's ready for a day of labor. He doesn't look excited. He doesn't look mad. He just looks like, this is what I have to do.
And as you wake up, fresh from this nightmare you just had, is this a nightmare you've had before? Are you used to these kinds of things, or is it something new to you? Is it foreign? For Sinu.
Oh, is it something new, you said?
Yeah, is it new, or are you used to these types of nightmares?
I think that that's probably something that he would deal with on a nightly basis. They might not always be the same, but I doubt very much that his mind is willing to take a break for 8 hours a night and just rest. It is always going. It is always dreaming up new things. I
like it. So as you wake up, slightly groggy, as you said, ready for a day of more hard labor, I assume you go outside of your tent, yes?
Yeah, he would get his things together, dress, scrub down with whatever water they had in a basin, and then ready himself, tying a rope around his waist, probably wearing fairly easy to find clothing of that of some sort of beggar or laborer.
I like it. So the camera is focused on the front of the tent, and it lowers, and you see your boot come out and step into the mud, And as it raises and turns away, you hear a commotion, Sinu. You hear a loud commotion, several voices, dozens of voices talking. No, more than dozens. It sounds like the whole camp is gathered somewhere. And as you look to the right and the camera finally turns to that angle, you see what can only be described as a large mob of people over there, all talking over one another, surrounding something. What do you do?
Well, he'll probably take as many of his belongings as he normally would on a day of working, keeping a small item in his pocket that he always keeps close to him. And he would head off in that direction. I mean, as curious as anyone would be, looking to see what's the commotion, what's going on.
I like it. As you approach the mob, the voices get louder and louder. You hear the whispers, the hollering, the shouting, the rough talking. It's another one? No, this one's different. This time they actually found the body. It's not just a missing person. Who was it? Who was it? I don't know. Some poor bastard in the mines. And as you approach the edge of the mob and walk in, the camera shifts away from you and deeper into the mob until we get to the center. And there we see foreman Davy standing there. See the man, he is short, he is a dwarf, and he is hairless. No beard, no eyebrow, no eyelashes, no hair, nothing whatsoever. A man standing barely 4 foot of height, wearing what can only be described as nice clothes, expensive than any of you would buy or possibly have. He's standing there with his open dwarven eyes, the eyes of what can only be described as maybe a sociopath, someone who doesn't care for you, but only cares for the work that must be done and for the people who he works with. At his feet is a corpse. And protruding from this corpse's body are 3 arrows. One of the fletchings is yellow, one of the fletchings is red, and one of the fletchings is black. And he's lying on his stomach, dead. An arrow in the back of his neck, an arrow in the center of his spine, and an arrow going through what would normally be his groin. And the camera lifts from his pale face, the mouth still agape, over, not yet closed, a bit of blood dribbling through from his mouth. And as the camera raises from it, it peers on you, Jason. Jason, name your character and tell me why he is so close to this corpse. Why is he in the center of this mob as well?
So my character is Arrow of Half Hill, though most people just call him Arrow, and that's how he introduces himself for the most part. He's about 5'11", pretty well built, a little gaunt though. He has these deep bags under his dark brown eyes. His eyes are so dark they're almost black. Kind of a hawk-like nose that's been broken a couple of times, so it's definitely not straight. It's very crooked. Sort of stubble covering his angular features. He's got this shoulder-length brown hair. And he carries himself, that would suggest he's much older, but in truth, he's only about 30, 31. He wears sort of an undyed brown leather long coat over some sort of mishmash armor and leather breeches and boots. He always has on this wide-brimmed, almost like a bolero, this black hat with a kind of torn and dirty red ribbon tied around the crown. And he's looking at this body with the arrows in it and just sort of stroking his unshaven chin as he kind of kneels down to inspect the fletchings on the arrows. And he sort of makes this clucking sound with his tongue, kind of that is a shame. And he just kind of peers intently again, trying to see if there's anything else he can discern from this corpse.
Go ahead and make a cunning test. And as you do so, Foreman Davy takes a step forward and he looks over to you. His head turns in a weird way, right? It's like he's almost like an automaton of sorts. He just kind of turns and it creaks as it does so. And he looks to you. And did you pass your cunning test?
I did not. My cunning is 11 and I rolled a 17.
Okay. So he asks you, you think sorcery? And you do not, because you don't know what this is other than arrows in a body.
Right. And I think that's how Arrow would respond. He just sort of looks up at this man and kind of straightens up, wiping his hands on his breeches, and just says, "No, my friend, I do not think this is sorcery. I think this is just an unfortunate case of arrows to the groin." And he kind of gestures with one hand towards the the arrows embedded in this man, especially the one around his groin.
You hear some chuckles from the rougher, more tough guys in the crowd, but the dwarf himself makes no sound. And his head creaks and turns again, and he says, "Where is the alchemist?" And as he says that, the camera turns with him, and you see the mob beginning to part, and in comes your character, Nico. So, Nico, please name your character and tell us what it's like.
So, Igio comes with slow steps. His hair is tied behind his back, his dark hair. Those green eyes peering into the direction of a corpse. He's quite tall, he's 6 feet tall, and he's slim but muscular at the same time. And he just approaches carefully, taking the front in the crowd.
With one finger, Foreman Davy points to the corpse, and he says, "Can you tell me how old this corpse is?" And when he says that, you hear voices from the crowd like, "The bastard just went missing a day ago." And other voices saying basically similar things. But what do you do when he says that, Igio?
I kneel beside the corpse and begin to inspect it.
Go ahead and make me a cunning test as well, Igio.
I rolled a 5.
Perfect, so you surpass. So when you look at the corpse, tell me actually, how do you inspect it? What does it look
I
like?
take a few drops of a mixture of my own to test against the skin and drop it on the palm of the hand
Ooh,
as I lift it.
That's really cool. That's dope. I like that. As you drop those drops on it, you see the liquid begin to spread out across the hand. And what is it? What would basically within the last hour look like?
It looks like a faint cerulean blue, a light blue. If he was
And
older, it
it's
would turn purple or black.
perfect. So it's that cerulean blue you see kind of appear with a snap on the hand. And the dwarf looks to you for confirmation.
Yeah, 1 hour, not longer. I reply.
You look into his dead eyes, and he looks at you, and then he looks to the rest of the mob, and everyone disperse and get back to work. You, and bring me the blonde. What's your name, Cameron, when you're under disguise, Sinu?
So when Sinu is here at this camp, he would have, as often as possible, always been in this guise and goes into the name of Eldon.
Eldon. And bring me Eldon. He's off duty today. And the mob basically was dispersed. And Eldon, you're told you're wanted with the foreman, of course, in the center. And Elman, during this whole interaction, did you ever move closer to the center to see what was happening?
Eldon would not. He always tries to stick to the edges. He doesn't want attention.
So what do you do? What do you feel like, actually, as you're basically summoned by the foreman directly?
He's worried that he's going to have to cause another situation to get away. He's worried that every time that there's attention drawn to him, that he has to do something drastic. So he's quite cautious as he steps forward, perhaps trying to mimic it in the visions of being shy, being timid.
I like it. Now, this is the early morning. It's the blue hour. It's so fairly dark outside. The dwarf, the foreman Davy, looks to you, all three of you, and he says, "You three will investigate this. You, Elman, are going because you know the layouts of this place very well, and because the work you're doing today is unimportant. You, Ego, are going because your alchemy will be needed to test things, and you, witch hunter, are going because you are a witch hunter. Operative word, hunter."
Reason for me. And Arrow kind of doffs his hat and then puts it back on his head.
Which one of the two was it that got called out as the witch hunter?
Aura. With the wide hat. So he looks upon you three and he says, "Investigate outside of the work camp first. The mines, if you would. The trees where the cutters are cutting, if you would. and then come back to the camp. And when he says this, just as a bit of background, because you guys have been in this camp for a few weeks now, 2 important things for you guys to know. You're 4 weeks into the Davokar in terms of 4 weeks of travel, so you're pretty deep in this bitch. Second part, people have been going missing for the last, basically, the few weeks you guys have been here, maybe a person every few days and all that. So what he says next strikes a chord with you when he says, and if you can, find whoever else is missing and make sure there are arrows in them when you find them. And you can surmise he says this. The people, that the workers themselves, would much rather accept the fact that someone is killing them with arrows than some blighted supernatural rumor or myth or exaggeration in the Davokar. So with that, he turns, without waiting for you guys to confirm or deny anything, and walks away. So right now, you guys have an open playing field for what you guys want to do. So feel free to talk to each other in character and tell me what you guys want to go do.
So, Hunter, Arrow is it?
Arrow of Half Hill, but you can just call me Arrow. That's fine.
Okay, then Arrow, so where do you suggest? You're the hunter, as the foreman strongly indicated.
And Arrow kind of chuckles a little bit and kind of rubs at his nose, and he just says, "This is true. The foreman is not a subtle man, not a subtle man at all. I think we check the tree. We're 4 weeks into the Davokar. I'm surprised, honestly, that we have not found more bodies like this, but I think that's where we should start. There are all sorts of creatures living out here." And he kind of scans the distant tree line, his eyes narrowing a little bit.
Whatever you say, I will follow you.
This is good. All right.
Ego?
I think we're heading towards the tree line first.
Right, perfect. So the camera shifts again, and this time you guys are deeper into the Davokar. So the cutters, you know, are usually about maybe an hour or so, about 30 minutes to an hour or so outside of the actual camp, you know, cutting trees further away, where the richest oaks could be found, really. As you guys move in that direction, there's a path that leads straight there. Do you guys want to follow the path all the way to the Curtis camp? Or do you want to deviate and actually explore the woods themselves in between the two locations?
I think Arrow would probably recommend staying on the path, only because getting lost in the Davokar is almost certainly a death sentence, even this close to the camp.
Mm-hmm. So you guys get closer and closer to the woodcutting camp. Normally you would hear the voices of commotion, people eating, and of course the familiar sound of axe on wood. You don't hear axe on wood. You don't hear people eating, but you do hear a lot of talking. And as you guys get closer and closer, you see that much as they were in the camp, here too the woodcutters have their own kind of mob going on. And you can see kind of like a council of the biggest, oldest men on what massive 3 giant stumps of the crowd. As you guys approach the rest of the crowd, you hear, "But she's gone missing. Hanji's wife has gone missing. That was my daughter too, you bastard. And I know she's gone, but we have to continue." And you hear this conversation escalating and escalating as you guys get closer to it. What do you three do?
This is no good for Sanu. Any trouble in the camp just makes him worried. I think that, again, he's gonna let the hunter play lead, and so he's just gonna be standing around waiting to be useful, but he will not offer anything.
Igio starts walking closer to the mob, trying to hear the conversation a little better, and trying to blend in as well as he can, even though he doesn't blend in so much.
I think you might
Hunter, would you not do something?
It looks like Jason, our friend, has DC'd for a moment. You guys approach the three. Oh, Jason's back. There you go. You good, man? Oh, I cannot hear you if you said anything. All right. Well, Jason gets his stuff fixed, basically. The three of you approach the talking mob in the group. As you do so, all of you please make me a resolute test.
I got a 12 out of 15.
All right, so you pass.
11 under 13.
You both pass. Both of you feel a twinge. Something is wrong. Something is kind of I don't polluted maybe in the air, in the atmosphere. Darker around you almost. As if it's not early morning, but as if it's almost early night, if that makes sense. You guys get closer. And the mob turns to face to you guys. A few of them at first, so then more. And then one of the three eldermen looks up to you all and he says, "What are you three doing here? I see the alchemist Ezekiel. Another woodcutter. Supposed to be off today. I'll be calling the witch hunter. Why are you here?"
We were sent by Davni. And we're looking. There were arrows and a corpse. The hunter knows most, but he's looking over something else now.
Arrows and a corpse.
Yes.
I don't know why you would come here looking about arrows and a corpse. We have our own problems in the camp this morning.
Yes, sir. I just do as I am told.
And what problems might those be, my friend? And Arrow kind of steps forward, his boots kind of clomping loudly on the dirt as he walks up towards this curious individual, this abrasive individual.
The older man looks to you and he says, "Stigmata has appeared."
Ah, that is surprising, but perhaps not so surprising considering. And he kind of gestures towards the Davokar nearby.
Exactly. Surprising my ass. When we accepted this job, we told we'd be a day or two into the Davokar, not 4 fucking weeks. It's evil. It's cursed.
The ambitions of men oft get them into trouble. I completely agree. Show me this stigmata. And he starts looking around for any sign of this stigmata.
Down, and a few of the men seem to object, but the other two elders held out their hands to stop them. Through some of the cut down trees, some of the trees are partially cut down, tents, and he walks into his tent specifically, opening up the flap and beginning for you three to walk in. As you three walk in his tent, there's a candle lit, but the candle is fading fast. There's very dim light in here. The smell, the stench is horrible. It's like rotting flesh almost. And the old man says, "That was the first thing we suspected of being a stigmata. But look at her face now." And as you get deeper into the tent, you see lying in a bedroll is a young woman, maybe 15, 16 years of age. Her hair is, for some reason, shocking white. It is wiry and thin, and slowly creeping around her face. Black, worm-like tattoo, just moving in a slow swirl on her cheek. That appeared over the night. This is my daughter.
My condolences, sir. Is this marking something that Simni would possibly know about?
You've seen stigmas a lot, and stigmatas, of course. You know that whenever corruption begins to seek into things, it twists them, it blights them, and this is what this is. It's a blighted mark growing on her. You don't know if it's temporary or permanent yet, however.
Okay. Well, Eldon will definitely step as far away as possible without leaving the tent, appearing to give room for the others to investigate.
I ask permission to examine the daughter.
Go ahead. Alchemist is what you're here for, really.
I come closer as corruption is of great interest to me, and try to analyze, try to discern if it's temporary or permanent.
Go ahead and make me a cunning test and modify it by 2. So -2.
Up or down?
Down. So basically trying to roll 2 less than you would normally.
I rolled a 10 out of 16 modified by 2.
Perfect. All right, so 10 out of 14 you pass. How do you check for if it's a temporary or permanent stigmata?
I use another one of my mixtures. I developed it while I was beginning to study the corruption. It just sizzles without causing any harm if it touches permanent corruption.
As the drops touch her face where the mark should be, her face kind of moves, like it jerks or twitches, but there's no sizzling. It's temporary corruption, at least from what you can gather.
I related information to the father and to the others in the room.
And how does that help me? It's still there, isn't it?
My sentiments exactly. It is good that we know, and he looks to you, Igio, it is good that we know that this is only temporary, but something once touched by corruption, it is never the same, even if the corruption eventually fades. And then Arrow looks at the father with these intense dark brown eyes and says, what would you like to have happen for your child? I do not think it is possible to cure her, but we could give her a clean death. And he sort of pats the stiletto hanging from his hip.
He looks at you for a second with a look that you can only understand as a mixture of disgust and raw anger. And he punches forward, speaking through gritted teeth. This is my fucking daughter, and you're asking me if I want to give her a clean death? The alchemist himself just said it was fucking temporary.
I am a witch finder, my friend. Control yourself. I have seen things like this before. It is temporary, yes, but something once touched by the darkness is not the same afterwards.
How about you, witch finder? Tell me where she got this from. We're just cutting down fucking trees out here and telling me that stigmata's appearing after people have been disappearing for the last few weeks.
I will take a look. And he sort of sidles over, and I guess he'll try to look at the corruption on her face and see if he recognizes it from anything he's seen before.
I mean, you've seen a laundry list of stigmatas. You've seen everything from horns to skin colorings, tattoos like this, the stenches. This is just another stigma.
Anyone have any idea, like, specifically what would cause this type of stigma?
From your understanding, there's no rhyme or reason how a stigma manifests. In fact, it almost is dependent on the person, with the source almost being a non-factor. And as you're looking at the face of the daughter, the old elder looks at you again, alchemist, and he says, "You're an alchemist. So there's something you have that can help with this."
I'm looking quite blankly at the face of the daughter, and I very slowly turn to him and say, yes, but the witch hunter is correct. There is not yet been found a cure for corruption that does not involve flame or torture, so I can ease her pain, but not for long.
His face kind of like, I don't know, just kind of like it shakes, and his head shakes too. And you see his brow kind of furrow, and he opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again, sighs. Okay. Well, then ease it then, until we could find another way to deal with it.
I grab from my bag a dose of purple sap, and I don't know if it's ingested or applied.
Suggested.
But I lift her head then and make her drink it. I speak very firmly on this. Do not spill a drop.
She doesn't struggle at first, but she doesn't help you either. You sense that her strength is too faded for that. But the sap goes down her throat, the purple in color as his name implies. Vicus too. And you smell the stench beginning to wane, and you see the tattoo spiraling on her face. slow down, slower and slower until it's still, and then it just begins to fade slowly too, and not all the way, but it is in fact faded.
I turn back to the father and I reiterate, this is not a cure. This is just temporary. It will come back. You should prepare yourself for whatever comes.
And with that, the older man basically storms out of the tent, throwing the flaps aside with a rush, and stepping out far, but you could tell from the sound of his steps, he only goes a few feet. What do you guys do?
I think we have a job to do. We should not linger. You've helped her as much as you can. Come, I will show you the way.
That is not entirely accurate. And Arrow kind of looks from Igio to Sinew and back to the girl and sort of cocks his head to one side, asking the question without asking it as he sort of pats the stiletto hanging from his hip.
I am a laborer. I will not be a part of whatever this is that you gentlemen do. I will console the father. And Sinew would stand outside and just offer some kind words to the old man,
And
encouraging him that everything should be okay.
Yes, he listens, kind of. He's staring out blankly into the woods, into the gray and the blues of the Davokar, darker as it may be. And he turns to you and he asks you, Sinew, why are you here today for? What the foreman sent you out this way? The corpse, what about it?
I am to lead these two. They must be new. Today was my day off. Lucky me. The arrows had bright colors on them. I don't know much about bows and fletching, but 3 different colors.
What were the colors?
One was black, another yellow, as the sun, and the last red, like the blood that ran from the corpse.
Sounds like elf arrows. Don't like it. Ain't you heard the rhymes, boys?
It has been a while. My mother died long ago.
Yellow as a warning. Red to wound and a warning. And black to make you no longer see the sun. 3 arrows from elves.
Why would they warn, wound, and kill all at once?
Don't know. Don't want to know.
The unfortunate fellow.
Where did they find the body at, you know? They tell you?
Over near the other camp. It wasn't far from my tent. I heard the commotion early this morning as I woke. As soon as I find another job, I'm out of here.
Yeah, well, that's 4 weeks traveling by yourself out of here, bucko. Not gonna make it doing all that.
We are all fools.
Some more than others, but I digress. So what? They sent you out here to talk about the dead body, to let us know about it?
I am just here to guide these other two. They are so busy looking. They are so busy looking for corpses. They do not know the way. We are to head perhaps through the trees, see if there are any other bodies. I know not. I leave these things to men much smarter than I.
You know, a week ago, Sign disappeared. 4 days ago, Yoon disappeared. And then 2 days after that, we disappeared. So, I don't know, maybe they got them too, these blasted elves. You know how they are, their fairies and their boars and whatever else it is. And he just hit DC'd. So, as they're talking, the camera moves back into the tent. What are you two doing inside of there?
My eyes turn from the normal look that you have when you're talking to people to a dead, calculating look. As the father stepped out of the tent, I grew closer to the corpse and I examined it, pulling paper and quill from my sack to take notes about the corruption.
So Arrow sees this. He just sort of shakes his head and he kind of puts a hand on your shoulder, Igio, and just says, "You would do well not to observe too closely. Trust me, I lost everything to someone that dabbled in the corrupting powers of magic. Writing it down, observing it, why do you seek to understand the darkness?" And in one fluid move, he pulls out his stiletto and he just drags it across the girl's throat.
I lost my family to corruption. I seek only to cure it.
There's only one cure for corruption, alchemist. And he holds up the bloody stiletto.
And as you do that and say that, you guys would both just hear her like dying gurgles as she basically drowns on her blood. This conversation.
The sweet music of release. Her spirit will find joy in the afterlife, I am sure. And he actually wipes the stiletto. Is she wearing like a dress? I'm assuming like on a somewhat non-visible portion of her dress, like maybe on the back or something, so it's not super obvious. Well, more obvious.
After he killed her, I just, well, at least the purple sap I gave her will make her look a little less corrupted as I put her in the ground.
And as you think that, the both of you guys hear a number of voices out of the tent. Do you two walk outside or what?
Arrow will walk outside, leaving Igio in there unless he follows.
I follow. I've done all I could and took all the notes I could here.
And the camera moves with you guys back into the light of day, or the dimmed light of day, I should say. And you guys see a group of maybe 6 or 7 woodsmen approaching the tent overall. I don't know. A few of them look extremely harrowed. One of them is an elder who's not harrowed, but the others look extremely like beaten and raggedy, tired. And as they approach, they hail you guys. And the elder, the one you guys are with, walks forward, and they chat for a moment away from the group. And you guys can actually overhear them, and they say, "Over here, Lan says he saw something out in the woods. The others did too. Gave him the spooks, made him feel wrong. They came running back. So they couldn't really see what it was, but it sounded weird, looked weird. They couldn't tell." What do you guys do as you hear this conversation?
Sinu will back around to the side of the tent to allow the others out, and then continue to step off to one side. Again, always looking to avoid direct confrontation or anyone looking like they're upset. But he will glance to the woods from the direction they pointed.
Igio exits the tent, still packing his pen and his quill and paper into his sack, and looks at the Witchfinder to see what he plans to do.
So Arrow, seeing Igio's look, kind of touches the brim of his hat, and then he walks over to this group. But as he walks over, he kind of whispers to Igio. He says, "Just be ready to run in case they find the poor unfortunate inside that tent." And he moves over to the group and just says, "Friends, you seem agitated. You look tired. What has happened? You seem concerned about something wrong, perhaps something we can help with." And he kind of gestures to where Igio and Sinu are standing, including himself.
The foreman strokes his beard. Not the foreman, sorry. One of the elders strokes his beard and looks at you and he says, "Yeah, well, so they saw something in the woods that gave them the spooks. Could be what's been making our boys go missing. Maybe related to those elf arrows earlier that me and the boy over there were talking about." And he nods his head to Sinu. And he says, "A few of us will think about going back into the woods and find the thing if you're willing to go with us."
That sounds like an excellent idea. The more the merrier, I say. How soon can you leave?
Now.
Then let's go now. And Arrow will kind of gesture for Sinu and Igio to come close.
Some of the woodsmen stay back, of course, wanting nothing to do with those creepy-ass woods or whatever may be in there right now. The rest leads you guys deeper. One of the harrowed men kind of pointing off where they came into. And you guys break through the tree line and you go deeper and deeper. Skip ahead about maybe 20 minutes or so. The woods here are very close together. It's almost like you're surrounded walls of just tree and foliage and roots. It's almost impossible to move well. As you guys are moving forward, your foot, Igio, sinks into the mud deeper than it should. And you look down, Igio, and you see this large clawed print in the ground that you're now stepping in, 2-3 times the size of your own boot. What do you do?
Fellows, I ask everyone. And I just raise my hands in a question manner, just to see what the hell the Witchfinder thinks, and hoping the other woodsmen will not go running back to the camp.
So Arrow looks back upon hearing Igio, and then he sees that he's raised his hand, and he kind of goes over to him and looks. Then he looks up at Igio very slowly, and then he looks over at Sinew and just says, "As far as I'm aware, elves do not have claws. We should move quickly and resolve this because there is something else here, obviously." And he kind of looks, kind of scanning the tree line. Is there some kind of check I can make to see if there's anything?
Make a vigilant test.
Vigilant test, okay. I rolled an 11. My vigilant is 10.
So you don't see anything. As you look around, you see no signs, just the dark of Davokar, really.
Let us keep moving as quickly and as quietly as possible. And he takes out his somewhat clean knife and his crossbow as well, so he has his weapons at the ready in case something jumps out at us. As
you guys move ahead, the woodsman taking out a few other axes as well, you see another footprint, but instead of being close like a stride, it's maybe a meter or so ahead, as if this thing was loping forwards, right? And you guys move along with it, and then one of the woodsmen stops, and he looks back to the first footprint, and he sees it was at the base of a tree, and he looks up the base of that tree, and he sees clawed marks in the wood of it. He whispers something under his breath as his head turns, and then blood splatters you in your face, Igio. And you take a step back, and you blink, and you wipe the blood out of your eyes, and you look, and you see that woodsman no longer has its head. It has been ripped from his shoulders, crushed into pulp, and scattered amongst you all. And you see this black, twisted, heavy claw rising higher and higher into the canopy, too long to belong to anything human. Everyone, please tell me what your quick scores are, because we're entering into initiative order.
10.
7.
7.
Also 7.
7. We're going to say Aro goes before you. Is that okay?
Absolutely fine. Inaction is pretty standard.
Essentially what happens is this. Something drops out of the trees. It lands in the middle of your group and it rises. It is 8 feet tall at the minimum. It wears torn cloaks all about its body. You see a heavy iron mask on its face, but through the eye holes are 2 antler horns twisted and sprouting like branches of a tree. This thing is massive, with one arm dragging on the ground, another still hanging in the air, and it brings an arm down. If you would, for me, Aro, please make a quick test, modified by a -3.
So just to make sure, so my quick is 7, so modified by -3, I'd have to roll a 4 or less. I rolled a 15.
Correct. You're a 15. You definitely did not make it. When this thing hits you, it's that someone just hits you in not 1 or 2, but just a whole fucking pack of hammers straight into your chest as it picks you up and slams you into the nearest tree. Go ahead and roll your armor. Would you roll?
So for my armor, I rolled a 7.
7. You miraculously do not take any significant damage from this thing as you kind of slide to the ground shaken. But this thing turns fast, almost too fast as lightning and 100 times as deadly, as horns emerge from its back, and you just see the heads of woodsmen rolling everywhere. So Igyo, it is your turn. What do you do?
I'll draw my crossbow and shoot it. Just shoot it. Shoot at the thing.
Perfect.
No
Go ahead and make an
ceremony.
accurate test for me. You're gonna make it accurate, modified by 1.
No, I got an 18 on the die. Yeah, no.
You definitely denied it. You raise your crossbow in a matter of pure, calculated, rehearsed instinct. You pull the trigger. You hear the thrum of the bolt, but it hits this thing dead in its iron mask, and it goes clattering to the ground. It's too close to you to get an easy, good shot off of. Aro, it's your turn. What do you do?
All right, can I leave this creature's melee range without taking some kind of op attack? If that's a thing.
You would have to do a full action, and that would just basically give a disadvantage to strike you.
Ugh. All right, then you know what? So Aro is going to put his crossbow away. He's actually going to take his stiletto and just try and stab this thing. So what am I rolling?
Quick, modified by 1.
Ugh. So I'm pretty sure I didn't get it. My quick is 7, so I'm assuming I need to roll, what, a 6? Something like that? Okay, yeah, I rolled a 14, because I can't roll low tonight.
Okay, yeah. You definitely did that. Yeah, the one time you want to roll low, you can. You pull out your stiletto, and you flip it around your wrist. You strike forward. You go to stab this thing anywhere. You don't know where the fuck to stab. You just want to stab. But when you stab it, it's like you're stabbing air, right? And when you pull back your stiletto, you tear out its cloak, and you see that its entire rib cage is just hollowed out. You stabbed in between its ribs. All right. Now it is your turn, Sinu. What do you do?
Originally cower in fear, stepping back, looking down at the pick, the tool he has in his hand, and then up at this thing. Is there anything near him that he could use effectively at range? Perhaps, I don't know, other tools or one of the dead foresters laying there with other items?
They had basically an assortment of hand axes that you want to pick one up and try and throw it.
Yeah, there's just no way Sinu would get anywhere close to this thing unless he had to. So he'll try and grab one of the axes to throw.
So you're going to make a quick test, modified by 4, because it's not a very good throwing item.
A quick test modified by 4?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Let's...
Or accurate. Excuse me. Accurate.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was going to say I have a 3 for quick, if that's the case. By accurate, I rolled a 6 out of a 9 minus 3, so that's right on. Is it meet or exceed?
That hits. That hits. Just got to meet or get lower. So go ahead and roll your damage. You throw this axe. Oh, where are you trying to strike it? In the face, the arms, just anywhere?
Yeah, its arms probably. That's what seems to be doing the damage. And clearly the face of this thing is just antlers and iron. So I think he would go to try and hobble it or hurt its hands.
And what did you roll?
I don't know what the damage is on the axe.
Oh, the axe is going to be 1d6. Excuse me.
1d6. I got a 5.
5, perfect. You see it strike this thing in the arm, and the arm you strike it in one of its stupidly long forearms, and it bends back completely at the elbow in the wrong angle. And you see the axe just hanging in it. Next turn, it turns towards yours, and that arm bent at the wrong angle, then snaps forward to the right angle, and the axe goes flying at you. Please make a quick test for me, modified by 2.
Wow. Did you say me?
Yeah, you.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Quick, modified by 2. Fail.
Fail. The axe strikes you dead to damage, 1 over your pain threshold. Fall to the ground, or do you want to give it another attack?
Definitely fall to the ground. Not even knowing what that does. It sounds better.
The force, yeah, it's bad. The force of the axe literally picks you up off your feet and just slams you back to the ground. You lie there winded and just bleeding from this gash you now have across your sternum. The creature's not done yet, and then turns around again viciously. His arms extend outwards longer than they're supposed to, and they're already too long as is. Igyo, go ahead and make me a quick test defense test, excuse me, modified by 3. You roll high?
I got a 1.
Oh, you got a 1. That's perfect. So
Yeah.
actually, and it comes at you. Describe your dodge for me, and then take a free attack against it.
I dive and roll away from him, and then I guess I just reloaded my crossbow and shoot it or kick it, whatever's clear, whatever's best.
Perfect. We'll say shoot it because there's some good distance between you now. Go ahead and roll your accuracy, again modified by 3.
No, 9.
9. So you miss?
Yep.
All right. So you quickly roll away from this thing's attack. You see random branches flying in the ground now, going high into the canopy. If the camera turns and it follows it, and the sky is abnormally dark right now in morning, and the camera moves back down, and you see this thing is kind of moving away, slowly, kind of like in place almost, both away and forwards. Turn ego fully. What do you do?
Now I guess I'm going for the stronger approach. I try to use my poisoner ability to apply moderate poison to my weapon.
All right, reaction or okay, probably free action. Actually, I'll just say it is. So, you take your poison out. You clearly, basically, I'm gonna say like you pop open the bottle and just pour it like on your crossbow bolts because like you don't have time to carefully apply it now. You want to take a shot as well?
Yes.
All right, go ahead and make your accurate test.
No, 17.
17. It goes slumming right past this thing. Yeah, this thing is just not getting hit by you guys. Ego, Aro, it's now your turn. What do you do?
All right, and this thing is still within melee range of me. It hasn't moved?
Correct.
Okay. So yeah, Aro is going to try and take a little better aim this time with the stiletto and just stab into this thing, just crying out for the people of Half Hill. And I'm definitely not going to do it probably because I rolled a 17.
All right. You slash just wildly at this thing and don't even get close to hitting it. One of its arms actually reaches up back into the canopy, and you see the arm begin to shrink very rapidly. You hear the creaking of a tree behind you guys. It is now your turn. Sinu, what do you do?
So it has reached up into the trees, and it seems to be getting smaller?
No, the arm is getting smaller, yeah.
And there's a separate sound coming from another tree?
From the tree it's grabbing, you hear that tree beginning to creak.
Okay, all right. How overt is it to use sorcery?
I will leave that up to you.
Can I make a discreet check to perhaps curse this thing, under my breath or using my hands in a way that looks like it's natural?
So the person you really want to be discreet from is going to be, God, what's your name? Ario. Ario, what's your score for Vigilant?
My score for Vigilant is a 10.
Okay, so let's go to Actress 0 modifier. So yeah, just go ahead and make a discreet test.
Okay. My discreet's a 13.
All right.
And I got a 4.
4, perfect. So what does it look like as you curse this thing discreetly?
So there's an axe hanging out of Sinu's shoulder or chest that just threw him across, the grass where he was standing. The force of it knocks him to the ground, and he rolls there for a moment, just completely in shock. He tears it out, looks at the blood on the axe, clutching the wound, and he looks over at the creature, focusing on the axe, thinking that also the creature's blood could be in here as well, thinking that somehow they are bonded. And so he uses that motivation to curse this fell beast, hoping that somehow it will cause it to either flee or just not perform so hideously well in this melee that's going on.
This enters the world. The world begins to corrupt. Imagine the atmosphere around you guys as if it was like a sphere around you. Now imagine it turning black. Now imagine it turning like a vortex around you all. You feel the wind picking up. A mist enters through the trees and surrounds you guys. It gets cold, it gets hot, and it gets cold again. You begin to sweat. You don't know what is causing this, and the creature begins to shake and then to screech. And the sound that comes from its covered mouth, its maw, is only barely audible to you people because it's so high-pitched. It sounds like a whistle in the back of your ears, or like the ringing in your ears, like the frequencies are dying in your ears, which in fact they are, as it begins to screech. And his arm drops down into the soil beside it, having somehow been almost removed from the main body and twisting, and you see black worms emerge from it. And it's this thing's turn again. It stops whatever plan it had before, turns towards you directly, Senu, but its body was faced away from you. So the head literally turns all the way like an owl, and you hear the breaking of its neck as it does so, and then it dashes at you full speed. As it does so, you get a free attack on it, Aura. Do you take it?
Most definitely. Even though I am surrounded by signs of corruption, he's going to try and lash out and hit this thing. This is accurate, right?
Perfect. Yep, I'm going to give you two. Basically, you have like D&D 5e advantage on this right now.
Okay, great. Well, that first one will definitely hit, but I'll roll again. Actually, they should both hit. So I rolled a 4 and a 6. My accurate is 13, so those should...
All right, go ahead. Roll your damage.
Finally. Of course, min damage. So, yeah, 2 points of damage with his stiletto as this thing tries to move.
Your stiletto rakes across its body, but you see sparks flying through it. You cannot get through its natural hide with that 2 points of damage. And the thing continues moving forward, and now it's looming over you direct, and it brings up one hand. And because you're still prone, it gets another free attack on you as well. And it just lays into your body viciously. You're going to make me 3 defense tests, modified by 5 for each one.
And the defense is?
For you, 7, because you're quick.
7, okay. Just out of curiosity, did the curse take effect?
Take effect. You're right. So that means you have double chance to hit that. You have double chance on your test.
Okay.
Yeah. God bless you. I'll need it.
Here goes. Okay, so this is for round 1. I've got 2 rolls. Oops. I need a better die tray. Here we go. A 6. So that's 1. If I succeed, I don't have to roll again, right? It's the better of
for
the
that
2?
roll, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so this is round 2. I got an 18, so that one's going to hit. And 14. So yeah, the second attack will definitely hit.
The third attack as well. Go ahead.
Third one, I got an 8, so that's a no. And a 9, so two of the 3 attacks will hit.
So you're taking a total of 16 points of damage. Which I'm pretty sure doesn't kill you, but leaves you utterly wrecked. So what does it look like as this thing almost tears you limb to limb, Senu?
I'm imagining, I mean, just from my own point of view, what it looks like when a huge silverback gorilla charges someone and then just smashes over and over and over again. Maybe even grabbing one of my arms or legs and just sort of wrenching me around, smashing me into whatever's around it. Yeah, I don't know. This is brutal.
I asked you guys this question before we started, and that question was, have you ever seen The Revenant?
Yeah.
Picture this thing like a bear almost. It picks you up, slams you down, rips at you, slaps you into something, slams you again, bites at you, tears you apart, cuts at your throat and you begin to wheeze, slams you again, smashes a leg, picks up a rock, shoves it into your chest, and every time it strikes you, it's like its claws have mouths on them because blood is spewing from your body and covering everything around you. You cannot breathe, you cannot see, you cannot move, and then you're unconscious and the pain stops. This thing is breathing heavily over your body, down, and the mist kind of almost twirls too gently around it. It's now your turn, Igyo. What do you do?
First, I think, well, fuck. Then I try to skirt around. I know the beast is still close, but I try to help Senior, or as I know him, Elton, with my medical test. I want to try to stop the bleeding. Well, some of them at least.
Excuse me, can you repeat that last part?
I'm trying to stop his bleedings, at least some of them.
Oh, so you get up close to the thing then, because you see it standing right over it. As you do so, it's just breathing. And in fact, it's kind of, right? You get close to it, and you begin to check his wounds, and it's just staring at him with his antlered eyes, not even recognizing the fact that you're there. I'll make a cunning test.
I'm not hitting the beast, so I might just help my friends at least.
Yeah.
A 5.
Perfect.
My cunning is 16.
Well, if you want to, you could apply a herbal cure and heal him 1d6 toughness.
That's what I'm doing.
Nice, so roll a d6.
4.
4, perfect. What does it look like as you apply this fast-acting remedy?
Well, first I apply a powder just to try to stop the bleedings. Just powder, really, sand. And then I apply the herbs on top. They're slightly moist, so they bind to the sand.
I like it. I like it a lot. Oh, it's your turn. You see this thing hunched over your two comrades, but not moving and barely breathing. What do you do?
All right. So Aro, after seeing how little his stiletto did, are any of the woodsmen still alive, or are they all dead and it's just the three of us?
You look around you and the camera moves for you, and you see corpses everywhere until you see one. The old man whose daughter you killed, he's lying there, breathing still and holding his side.
Okay. So Aro is going to put his stiletto away, and he's going to start moving back the way they came. Yeah, and he's gonna try and fire a crossbow bolt at this thing. Let me see if I can roll low. Is there any kind of modifier to that?
That's going to be actually it's standing still, so no modifier.
No modifier? Okay. And I'm using quick. Yeah, so that's a miss. So the bolt flies wide, probably sticks into a tree somewhere as Aro just keeps moving back.
And did you grab the old man or no?
I'll move. I'll have Aro move towards the old man, but he's not going to make any move to help him just yet. He's just going to kind of fire the bolt, miss, and then just kind of stand over this older gentleman.
Sinu, your eyes open up, and as they do so, you feel a shift in your skin. From Igyo, your perspective, the blonde-haired young lad you are holding is now a young, blue, white-haired elven figure. A changeling, you can tell just like that by looking at it. Once, as you wake up, Sinu, what do you do?
I jerk away from him. He's here.
And Sinu, what are you doing?
Getting his wits about him. I don't know that he's ever been in a situation like this before. I mean, he's had some bad bar fights, maybe, or he's got into some trouble with the law, or what served for that in the camps. But I don't think he's ever been trounced like this. I think just in pure shock, he's not even going to realize that his true form has been revealed. And he doesn't care at this point. I mean, it's life or death. So he's going to... I have something called Beast Lore, and it says, make a cunning test to understand a monster and its stats. Would that apply here?
I'll say yeah.
Well, just struggling for some sort of reason to this monstrosity, it's defying all logic. He will try and just rack his brain for some mention of how this thing functions.
Right.
So it's a cunning test, and I've got an 11.
11. Is that under your cunning?
Yeah, I get 11, and I just rolled a 9, so we're good unless there's a modifier.
You're a sorcerer. You know what corruption does to people. You know what a blighted human looks like. A human figure distorted, tragically, horrifically, eldritchly. The antlers coming from the highs, the humanoid shape, the hollowed out ribcage, the iron mask. This was a human once. And then corruption claimed it. But the mask is the odd thing. You don't see masks often. An iron mask, no less. And do me a favor, make me another cunning test.
Oh, a 2.
2. You know what the Iron Pact is. A terrorist group. It's in the Davokar. And every time someone goes in it to loot it or to work it or to find something in it, the Iron Pact always shows up and forces them out, either by force and fear or by killing them. But they don't use corruption themselves. And as these two story threads kind of hang unknotted right now ahead of you, the thing twitches. The blighted human twitches over you. You realize it's twitching, Aro, because a black-fletched arrow just struck it in the back of its skull. And then another one. And then a black-fletched arrow lands at your feet. And then it goes past your face, Aro, and it cuts your cheek just slightly. And you see figures moving in the woods approaching. What do you guys all three do?
Question: can Aro see Sinew, his true form right now, from where he's at?
I'll say if you try and navigate to look past the blighted human, yeah, you can see Sinew's true face.
Yeah, so I think when the arrow hits the creature that's sort of standing over them, I think Aro would at least kind of slowly move, probably putting his crossbow away and holding up his empty hands to whoever might be watching and shooting these arrows, and try and just kind of sidle over to see how Igyo and Eldon are doing, if that's possible. And then he sees this blue-skinned, white-haired, elvish figure standing there, and Igyo sort of looking shocked. And I mean, neither of you are really looking at him, but his face just goes slack. And he can't really tell, but he remembers the day when Half Hill, his village, was destroyed by a sorcerer, by a changeling sorcerer that he's been hunting for quite some time now, because it took his family from him, everyone he knew and everyone he loved. And he just sort of stands there, his hands just drop, and he's just sort of staring at this figure, not doing anything at this point, regardless of any more arrows coming in. He's just sort of standing there, dumbstruck, looking at this individual.
Roll a d20. Your target number is 10. Roll twice and take the lowest one.
I rolled a 10 and a 4.
10 and a 4. Perfect. The arrows are still missing you as you stand there slack-jawed. The old man lying there, an arrow lands by his face, and he sees it fletching, and he says, "Black, don't see the sun." What are you two doing, Igyo and Aro?
Well, after jumping away from Eldon, I see the arrow. I hear the whoosh of the arrow, and I just hunker down. I throw myself to the ground, reload my crossbow, and try to look around, find who the hell is shooting at us.
The arrows are almost coming from everywhere. They just keep coming nonstop. You're lucky they haven't hit you so far, and that most of them seem to be aimed at the blighted human. What are you doing, Sinew?
Sinew's going to attempt to use the confusion, if possible, to roll out from underneath this beast and head for the closest piece of cover or shadow that he can. He realizes now that he's been exposed, and his only thought is to seek safety somewhere else until he can come up with some other plan. So he will dart for some sort of shadowy cover somewhere and attempt to get farther away.
As arrows rain about you, they kind of like leave a trail behind you. They're hitting the woods, they're hitting the ground, the loam. You find like this like enclave, like this bough. You go underneath the bough, right? And underneath it, you see this small, hunkered, glowing child, a fairy. And it looks up to you, and it giggles, and it touches the branch, and just tears it off completely, leaving you uncovered. What are the rest of you guys doing?
So I think by this point, Aro kind of regains his senses, still seeing these arrows flying. He's going to try and find some cover as well nearby. But as he does this, he's just going to shout out as loudly as possible. He's just going to say, "Please, we were attacked by this creature. We will leave this place if you let us go. Do not harm us. We meant you no harm." And he's going to try and find a place to hide.
You go and you hide. You find what's basically like a few rocks and trees turned over, and you hide underneath those. What are you doing, Ego?
I'm crawling towards the Witchfinder. I'm laying flat on the ground and crawling, trying to stay away from the arrows.
Make me a d20 roll. You're looking for 10. Roll twice. This is what I should have said last time. Take the highest.
Roll twice and get the lowest.
Take the highest. Highest.
Both are 10.
Both at 10. The arrows luckily miss you, and you get underneath the cover. And for another few seconds, arrows continue, and then they stop. You guys hear rustling about you. Movement soft. Too soft. It sounds like the susurrus of wind through trees, but you know it's too intelligent for that. You look to your side, or underneath your cover, and you see an iron-masked man. He's lying almost horizontal from you. His body kind of like lowered, and he has a bow in one hand and an arrow way back aimed at you. And you see boots behind him. There's other men there too. And then something heavy appears. Stomps down right beside you. And then you hear this heavy breathing up the tree that you're carrying over and throws it off of you. And you see it's a massive boar, too massive, bigger than any horse, a dozen tusks going from his snout down to along his neck. And sitting on back of it is a tall, maybe 8-foot tall man, or what would be a man, if not for the elven ears, dark blue in color, and the black eyes behind his iron mask. And he looks down to you. What do you say? You two, Ego and Aura.
So Aro immediately holds his hands up, his calloused hands, and just says, "We mean you no harm. We were sent here to investigate a mystery of sorts." And he kind of smiles a little bit, this sort of like stained smile. "But I'm not interested anymore. If you will let us go, we will leave. We will tell the other men at the logging camp to go. Clearly, this is beyond our purview." And he kind of looks over at Igio like, "Go along with this or we're going to die."
I drop my crossbow, crawl to my knees, holding my hands up, and I just, what he said. "We're going out, we're leaving, you should leave us alone."
The autumn elf in one hand, and from a finger extends your forehead. Ego. It pulls away, and it moves over to you, Aro, and it presses into your forehead. Aro, you know a ritual, do you not?
I do. It is the interrogate ritual.
Ritual you have, you gain 1 point of permanent corruption, do you not?
Wait, what now?
You should have a point of permanent corruption on your sheet.
Yeah, I have 2 points of permanent corruption right now.
Ooh. It pulls its finger back. The glove of it looks like it's been like covered in like ash or soot. And it looks back to you behind it and make a quick test modified by 4. Defense test by 4.
I'm sorry, I lost you there. What did you say?
Test modified by 4, so 4 lower.
And what was the stat one more time?
It's your defense.
Defense. Okay. The defense modified by 4.
Yeah, I think it can't go lower than 1, so limit would be is 1.
Okay, yeah. So my defense is 4, so lower by 4 would be 1, but I rolled a 5.
5. Roll your armor as this thing, quick as lightning, pulls out a spear and shoves it directly into your chest.
Okay. Let's see. 2 for the armor.
You take 8 points of damage. Is that above your pain threshold?
It certainly is.
Okay. Do you want to lie on the ground and go prone, or give it a free attack?
I will definitely lie on the ground and go prone. So Ara just kind of goes back with the weight of the spear, just sort of grunting softly. This kind of
It impales you into the ground with the spear, and then twists it mightily, recklessly in your stomach, and then pulls it out as blood spurts from you. And then quickly slides his spear back, and the boy just begins to move forward. The Iron Pact rush forward as well. And you can tell they're rushing towards the camp, bows drawn with black-fletched arrows. What do the three of you do? Changeling said, you seem to have miraculously been missed by all of this. You're sitting there basically fit and scuttling off.
Your mic's cutting out. What was that?
Because you were like saved, right? Basically, you were almost ignored, and the fairy's gone as well. So what do you do?
The fairy has left.
Yeah.
Did it leave any sort of trail?
It's kind of floated off somewhere. Well, you can tell it floated off after the rest of the Iron Pact, which is heading towards the labor camp.
Can he see what's going on? I mean, he kind of tried to run the opposite direction of where the arrows were coming from. Can he see what's going on with the other two?
If you look over the side of the tree, holding his stomach, writhing in pain, and Iggy standing over him.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I see him owing them no loyalty. I think tell me, in his equipment, I see a mask on the list. What is this mask?
You can describe it as you wish.
Is there any chance that are all of the people who are assaulting them wearing iron masks?
Yep, they're all part of the Iron Pact. So they all had iron masks on.
Is there any chance, being a changeling, being someone who's used to trying to fit in, is this mask in any way able to look similar, at least from a passing glance?
We could do that.
I think he'll fit that on and then use shapeshift to just appear to look, taller or lither, or whatever it would take to look similar to these people with the arrows and the bows.
And then what do you do after that? Do you follow after them, or?
Yeah, he would follow after them. He's still injured, and he knows that the only person he's seen that was able to cure that was the alchemist. And so his goal right now is to perhaps try and follow along and steal the alchemist's bag. And he'll see from there, but right now he's just going to kind of follow along and see if there's any opportunities for him to either heal or learn more about what's going on. His curiosity at this point, unfortunately, outweighs his sense of danger and dread.
So, Ego, you see that an Iron Pact member exits behind a tree and goes falling behind the other Iron Pact that just left you. You don't know that it's Sinu. So, what are you and Aro doing right now?
I'm not a fighter, so I just give way, leaning it against a tree, pulling my crossbow along with me, but not in a no ostensive way. So I'm just leaving it be. That's all I'm doing.
So Aro, despite the terrible stomach wound he's just taken, kind of reaches out and tries to grab you, Igyo, and just like, give me something for the pain, fool. I cannot let him escape. And he kind of coughs and some blood kind of spurts out of his mouth onto his unshaven face. And he's like trying to shake you, but he doesn't have a whole lot of strength left.
I appear to have forgotten, I say, as I turn to you and begin to dress your wounds.
All right, so go ahead and make a cunning test.
A 7.
7.
And
So roll the
another dose of heroic
1d6.
cure.
Yep, so go ahead and roll your 1d6. And
3.
3. So you patch him up a little bit. And Aro, what do you do now?
So does that mean my toughness went up by 3? Cool.
Yep.
All right, so feeling slightly better, Aro kind of reaches for a low. Well, there's no more trees. He kind of reaches over to one of the rocks that we were also kind of cowering behind in addition to the tree, and kind of pulls himself up, sort of doubling over a bit and spitting out blood. And he's going to look around. Are there any? There's no Iron Pact members left that we can see, correct?
Correct.
So he looks back at Igyo and just says, "Where did he go?" Eldon.
I have no idea. I really have no idea. He was under the beast, then they all appeared, and that was the last I saw of him.
Do you think he went with them, maybe?
Perhaps they captured him or something. I don't know. I was busy trying to not die.
So Aro is going to kind of like shove at Igyo, and you just hear him mutter, "Useless." And then he's going to kind of stomp out into the clearing to see if there's any sign of if Sinu went with them or if he stayed around. Any kind of thing.
Make a vigilant test.
Come on. 19.
You only see the massive amount of footprints left behind the Iron Pact that's heading towards the Woodman's labor camp.
So Aro looks around for a minute, and then he just kind of falls to his knees, and he's like tensing and shaking. Then he gets up, sort of smooths himself down. Is the older woodsman still around, or is he dead?
You look around, and you hear him kind of wrestling. Then he stands up, still bleeding from his side. He's holding it. And he begins to walk slowly, one foot after another, shambling towards the Woodman's labor camp. And he's whispering under his breath, "Got to save Sheila. Got to save Sheila."
Okay, so Aro, seeing that, is going to pull out his stiletto, and he's just going to like death march towards this guy, and he's just going to try and just take out this like raw anger. I mean, he is shaking and sweating, and he's bleeding from his stomach, and he's just like frenzied, just going to try and stab this guy in the back, just completely destroying him.
And unless the ego stops you, you do so. You murder the guy. You push him down. You stab him. He is grunting out. He's not screaming. He's too old, too hardened to scream. But he just grunts a few times as you just keep stabbing. And then he goes silent. And then you hear a long sigh come from him. And then, as corpses tend to do, he shits himself and dies.
And as Aro is sort of panting over this corpse, he's just like, sounds just like a fucking pig. And then he pushes himself up. And he looks back at Igyo, just covered in this man's blood, and says, "Are you coming, alchemist? I think we have a damn changeling to find. And then he turns, sort of one hand pressed against his stomach, the other hand still holding his bloody stiletto, and he just starts walking back towards the camp.
I give Arrow room. He begins to go. They're like, yeah, I'll follow you. And very small, very, very low from a distance.
The camera snaps back to your perspective, Sinu, not on you, but staring out through the two holes of your iron mask. You can hear screaming that you're running towards. You hear the sounds of battle, no, of slaughter. As you break through the trees, you see it. The Iron Pact are cutting through these woodsmen like a scythe through tall, wet, easily cut grass. You see arrows flying everywhere. You see one man running quickly away. He's wearing nothing more but his loincloth. There's an arrow sticking out of the back of his mouth. He's stumbling. He falls. You see another man tackled down. The Iron Pact member takes a knife, tries to shove it into his heart. The woodsman grabs it, and the Iron Pact member takes the back of his hand, starts hitting the hilt of the knife, and shoves it into his chest, killing him. These people are being slaughtered mercilessly. Wow, man, I'm butchering that word. No matter how old they are, no matter how young they are, no matter if they're male or female, the Iron Pact are killing them all. And surveying them is the Autumn Elf atop. What are you doing as you run into this carnage, Sinu?
Can you describe that last part, the Autumn Elf?
So the Autumn Elf is the tall guy with the mask. He's on the back of the Abor, and he's just kind of watching as the Iron Pact kill everything that moves.
Are these people that are wearing the iron masks, are they Fae? Are they...
You know the Iron Pact. They're a mixture of barbarians, they're a mixture of elves. They're a terrorist group, like I said earlier. They basically, if you go too deep with the Davokar, they make it their job to push you out or to kill you.
Okay. Are they speaking any sort of language that I understand?
Occasionally they speak with a mixture of Ambrian and what you think might be Elfish and a few barbarian tongues that you don't understand. It's like a Creole almost, like a code.
Okay. I actually think that Sinu would, if it's realistic enough, head towards the mines, thinking that could be a safer place. Because this is madness. This is war. Sinu is not built for war. He's injured, and he's just barely holding on to his sanity after all of this, probably. He's had to run from towns before, but never because of something so overtly just heinous and terrible. So I think his instincts to survive are going to kick in, and he's going to head towards the mine if that's a reasonable thing.
All right.
Thinking that it could perhaps be more safe.
Into the woods, trying to flee this bloodshed. The camera moves back to the Autumn Elf. The Abor moves slowly through the carnage. The old elder and the dead girl, whose name we now know is Shella. He gets off the back of it, and he steps before the great tent, and he grabs it with one mighty hand, and just whips the whole thing out of the ground and throws it to the side, and the dead girl. He walks forward, and he bends over, and he takes something out from underneath her blanket. The small, it is missing its head. Its arms are swollen. For a minute, the camera has a flashback to that nightmare that Sinu had, and then it snaps back to this. It puts the idol away into a box of iron, and it turns, and it removes its mask, and you see the blue-white face of the Autumn Elf and the black eyes. And you see from its perspective, you see rivers moving through the air, rivers of black, rivers of corruption. And it's tracking down where the idol's head is. And the camera follows those rivers all the way to the mines that you're heading to, Sinu. The Iron Pact finish slaughtering the woodsmen, and they move through the woods. And as they leave, that is when Igyo and Aro arrive into the destroyed woodsman camp.
So this whole time while they've been traveling, Aro has sort of been like under his breath to keep going from this horrible sucking stomach wound, has just been sort of muttering the names of all the people in the village of Half Hill that were killed all those years ago, just under his breath, just Ilsa, Jarek, just trying to force himself to keep going. He sees the destruction, and he kind of looks back at Igio and looks back at the camp, and then just kind of wonders aloud, I wonder if it's worth our time to go to was it to the mines? Was that the other place? Maybe there's some shelter there, perhaps. I think this camp is done for. And he kind of sits down to kind of take the pressure off of his midsection and just kind of doesn't lay down, but kind of leans up against probably a corpse, honestly, trying to catch his breath.
Yeah, I kneel down with arrow. I try to do I try to apply herbal cure again if I can. I don't know if I can or not.
So you can only do it once to a patient per day.
Yeah, so I can't. So I just kneel beside him, and yes, there were the mines, but what about the other camp?
I think the other camp is done for, and he kind of spits a mouthful of blood to the side. I think all we can do now is try to find somewhere safe to weather this storm, so to speak. And he kind of like puts a hand on you, Igio, and uses you to like help him get up onto his feet. Like, unless you have any better ideas, alchemist. It's a long way out of the Davokar.
Well, you might seem in bad shape, but you can still follow tracks, right? Or at least find them. We can know where they went.
This is true. I could do that. And so Aro kind of, again, using Igio almost as like a living cane, kind of like leans over to try and look at some of these tracks to see if he can tell which direction the Iron Pact went.
There's no test needed. Would basically be northwest from the camp, towards where the mountains are.
Is that the direction of them?
And where you would surmise the mines are probably closer to the foothills, yeah.
Okay.
In that direction.
Yeah, so Aro looks at Igio and sort of smiles crookedly and is like, I think we head to the foothills where the mines are. I think that's our best bet. We just need to be careful. And he starts walking in that direction.
If you say so, I'll just grab my crossbow and keep a lookout as we walk.
And Aro actually stops for a minute and looks back at you, Igio, and kind of grabs you by the shoulder and is like, you are a good man, alchemist. I apologize for thinking you were some sort of witch when I first met you. You are a good man. And he kind of pats your shoulder and then turns and starts walking.
I think to myself, well, I guess there must have been some psychotropics in those herbal cures.
I love it. All right. So now you break into a clearing, and a man looks at you, a miner. He sees your iron mask, war pick. Well, his mining pick. It says to you, what the fuck are you doing here? What are you? Who are you?
Say that one more time.
He's basically asking who you are.
There was a person that I ran into.
Yeah, you get, of course, people there, and they see you coming out with your iron mask.
Oh, no. He would for sure not continue the ruse if he noticed that there were, other laborers around.
All right, so you come out in the form of Eldon, right?
Yeah, he would stash the mask away and come back out as Eldon again. And he would limp and stagger. I mean, which he would anyways, probably from being injured. But he was probably trying to walk straight and confident before. But now he'll point back in the opposite direction. They are coming! It is terrible.
Who is coming, Eldon? What are you talking about, boy?
The Iron Pact of the forest. They're killing everyone. We must get down into the mine, barricade it, find a way to stave off this assault.
Iron Pact. What are you? What? And when he says that, what? You look at him. You see he didn't ask you what. It's because there's now an arrow sticking out of his left eye socket. He takes a step back, and the second arrow just strikes him dead in the nose, black fletching. You see the mines maybe 100 paces ahead of you. What do you do?
Sinew will bolt for the mines, hoping and trying to remember if there was any way to secure them, thick doors or a mine shaft, another entrance that he could try and get to once he's inside, even considering collapsing the mine itself if he has to.
All right, so make me 2 tests. Make me a defense test and make me a cunning test. So defense and cunning test.
A defense and a cunning?
Yep.
Okay, defense is a 7, 19.
All right. Does the defense pass?
No, not even close.
So you start running towards the mines. You can't think of a way to seal the mines or to protect yourself in there. So you just, this is your best bet. And arrows strike you in the back. You don't have any armor. So you take 8 points of damage.
I believe that's it for him.
That's it. So an arrow strikes you once, and then a second arrow strikes you, and then a third arrow strikes you, and you go tumbling to the ground. As your skin melts, the changeling, and you go black. The camera shifts, and you see something rustling. Something rustling in the woods, the camera sees. Other than out steps Aro and Igyo. You two see it's just more dead bodies everywhere, slaughter everywhere, packs killed, and they have went into the mines. And you see Aro, the blue-skinned changeling laying on the ground with 3 arrows sticking out of his back.
So immediately upon seeing that, Aro kind of looks at Igyo, and then he looks at Sinew/Eldon's corpse, and he just says very quietly, he just says, I think you should go. And as soon as he says that, he starts moving towards the body, and he just pulls out his stiletto really slowly, kind of dragging it across the leather of his breeches like he's sharpening the blade as he approaches the body.
Well, Ego seems very divided. But since the tracks out here, I think, well, I can't leave you alone. I may not shoot worth of them. My shot may not be worth of them, but maybe I can help somehow. I won't leave you.
And Aro doesn't even respond this time as he kneels down next to Sinew's body, and he just starts very slowly, very meticulously just cutting. Like first the ears come off, and then he rolls the body over, he takes off the nose, and then the fingers. He just starts cutting these pieces off him, and each time there's like a little jerk as he carves another piece. And actually, about halfway through this process, he just starts crying softly to himself until there's just this mutilated blue-skinned corpse at his feet. And he just throws the stiletto to the side and just weeps into his upraised hands quietly in the middle of all this destruction.
Ego does not know how
The
to
camera. I don't think anyone would. Is looking down on you, Aro. Weep into your raised hands over this mutilated corpse. The camera then suddenly turns and it's moving slowly over the carnage of the dead miners, mutilated, torn apart. And then it flips over to the woodsman's camp, and we see the destruction there. And then it flips back to the main camp, where people are fighting back and being killed and killing. You see workers just fleeing into the depths of the Davokar. You see Foreman Davy is carrying his left arm in his hand, bleeding from the open stump, looking around with his dead eyes and wondering, fucking stupid, as they go this deep into the Davokar. And then the final thing we see is in the bottom of the mines is a touching something, and his skin is black on his arm, and his fingers are clawed. And the autumn elf reaches down and pries open his fingers and pulls out the mined out, unearthed artifact in his hand, the small head of the idol. And he puts it into the iron box and he closes it, and that ends the one shot, the dark, the Davokar. Whether you two live or die, who knows? You might have made it out, you probably didn't. But that's the end of the game. So I hope you guys did enjoy your first Symbaroum game. By you guys real quick, get some quick thoughts in the game before we check out of here. Starting with you, Cameron, how did you feel with the game? Did you enjoy it? You like Symbaroum? How are you feeling?
I like the rolls, the way that the checks are made. That's pretty cool. You know, I think that's a neat way to do it. Instead of having to do a bunch of math, you just kind of roll under the number. It's brutal. This is like Tolkien meets Cthulhu almost, it feels like. It's like dark horror Tolkien.
That is, I never heard it described like that, but that works. It's like dark horror Tolkien. I like it.
Yeah. That was pretty intense.
All right. Jason, what about you?
Yeah, man, that was great. I think you mentioned before the stream started the party dynamic was going to be interesting, and it really was. I'm honestly surprised that that Igio stayed around as long as he did. And you know, not to overhype or anything, but Marquise, I heard a lot of great things about you. You know, running games, and I've seen a lot of your posts on AbTab, and you did not disappoint, man. I mean, the descriptions were fantastic. The system took a little bit of getting used to, but you kept it moving. Everything made sense in this weird, dark, twisted way. It was really well done, man. I would not hesitate to jump in on another Symbaroum game at some point. So thank you.
I appreciate it, man. And you and the other two are fantastic players to have as well. So thank you guys. And Nico, anything from you?
Man, I enjoyed this so much. I mostly DM, so I never play. So it's really fun to play, and especially in English because it's not my native language. So it's weird and so fun at the same time. I love the system and the vibe we got, the very brutal setting. I just enjoyed it so much. I hope it gets translated to Portuguese because I want to run it.
I feel you, man. All right, everyone. Well, again, I am Marquise. This has been my channel. I will be running a game every Tuesday, and may or may not be Symbaroum. You'll see a lot of different players. Sometimes these guys again, or one or two of them, and then other players as well. So just check in every Tuesday, like, subscribe, and I will catch you guys next week. So thanks for watching.